சார் நம்ம 6 o'clock கரெக்டா ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாம் சார். ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் வில் ஜாயின்.
Okay, madam. Hello, ma'am. Voice is
சொல்லுங்க
audible,
சார்.
ma'am.
ஆ
இந்த ஷேர் ஆப்ஷன் ஆன்
ஆ,
பண்ணிட்டீங்களா?
அதோ இதை கொடுக்க.
ஓகே மேடம். ஸ்க்ரீன் விசிபிள் ஆகுதுங்களா?
இருக்குங்க சார், விசிபிளா இருக்கு.
ஓகே தேங்க்யூ மேடம்.
நம்ம ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாம் சார்.
So good evening, students. So good evening to one and all who are all present in the meeting. In the summer vacation, the Department of CSE has planned a Gear Up series to recall what are all the concepts which will be helpful for your placements. In that series, today we'll be discussing about a topic called from object modeling to database design, which helps to bridge object-oriented programming and basics of database management system. Since these both topics are very essential and important topic in a placement preparation, take any process or a series of interview, you'll be having a series of steps. In that, in all the level of interviews, we can find questions related to object-oriented programming and database management system. Particularly, object-oriented programming plays a very important role during the placement preparation. So, each and one of you must know both the basics of Java, how object-oriented programming can be helpful in building a hackathon-based projects, and how to relate object-oriented programming and database management systems. In this series, today we will be discussing a few basic concepts about OOPS, what are all the methodologies involved in OOPS, how to build a small Java program, what are all the questions a interviewer or a HR person expects, what are all the basic terms you must understand, what are all the confusions which can occur between the terminologies in a Java program, and similarly related to database management system, SQL. What are all the basic SQL commands? Under that, in what are all the areas a student will be making mistakes while creating the code and executing the code? And what are all the main hackathon based object oriented programming projects a student must learn? And for a placement preparation, if you prioritize the important concept, what are all the concept a student must learn? All these things will be covered today. The voice is audible, pa. From student side, anyone? Screen and voice is audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you. In case if the screen is voice is not audible, please inform the faculty. They'll be informing me because since I'm inside the Zoom, if I'm having any network issue, it will not be intimated to me. So if you're having any network issue or if you're not audible, please inform the faculty. So let's start up with the OOPS concepts. If we differentiate the programming concepts, one is related to procedural oriented and another one is object oriented. In the beginning stages of programming, procedural oriented was followed. Since that was the early period, many CSE based concepts was not created or developed. So it was very tedious related to programming. The main important concept was code reusability was not achieved using the procedural oriented programming. So the people used to code a lot more lines of code, which makes confusions if you make a minor error or if you are importing the code from one place to another place. The receiver who is receiving the lot more line of code cannot understand if there is any minor changes in the classes or methods when it was in procedural oriented. So important concept which was introduced to simplify the programming is object oriented programming. So using object oriented programming, the main advantage was achieved is code reusability. For a small example, before a procedural oriented, if a project is developed using 10,000 line of code, the same output, same expected output was achieved using object programming with nearly 25% reduced with 1500 or 2000 line of code, expecting the receiver facilities. So to avoid the confusions arising during the procedural oriented and to minimize line of code, a concept introduced was called as object programming. And the main programming which used object oriented programming is Java. When compared to other programming languages, objects will be created more and simplified in Java programming, which you might have studied in Java programming subject, advanced Java programming subject. We will be recalling all those terms. So if you take a real world entity as an example, we can have a human as a class. He will be having a name as an objects, and it can be he will be having a different variety of properties. It can be a name, email address, his phone number, his educational qualifications. And to use these properties, we need a method to verify an email or to send a certain thing to an address. We need an action. That action can be referred to as methods in object-oriented programming. Here is a basic example to clarify what is an object and a class. Object-oriented programming is Generally, a methodology or paradigm to design program using classes and objects. The basic definition for object is real world entity. Any real world entity which has its own properties and behavior is called as objects. Example, here we are taking as a dog. And if you take a class, a collection of objects which acts as a blueprint and has full properties of that object is called as a class. If you take a class dog, it will be having a properties of breed, size, age, and color, and it has behavior. In programming, we mention it as method. It can be eat, sleep, run, and bark. These are all the methods for a class dog. As I mentioned earlier, these are all the expectations and advantages of object-oriented programming when compared to procedural-oriented. Object-oriented programming is a faster and easier to execute, and compared to procedural-oriented, object-oriented provides us a clear structure of program. While defining the program itself using objects, we can clarify and understand where a class is created, where variable data types are declared, which is a main method, where an object is created, how object helps us to call a method variable. Everything will be clear when we use object-oriented programming. Another important advantage is object-oriented programming helps us the Java code as dry. Do not repeat yourself. So once we have written a Java program and compiled it, it will be converted into a bytecode. We can transfer that bytecode to any receiver. He doesn't need to write the code again or compile again. Directly, he can run the program. That is the meaning for do not repeat yourself. And fourth advantage when compared to procedural is object-oriented programming makes it possible to create full reusable application with less code and shorter development time. These are all the four important advantages when compared to procedural-oriented programming. This is a diagrammatic difference between procedural and object-oriented. While using procedural, it was only a static programming method. We cannot exchange the data or functions when it was procedural oriented. Whereas in an object oriented, we can interchange our functions with our friend circle. Assume a team of four is developing a project. All the four people, you can define three different classes. You can create a package for your projects. Based on the package, you can interchange the methods, variables, interfaces. So it is possible using object-oriented programming. In real time, if you see it is a strategy or methodology, in real time, a common basic example for object-oriented programming is a banking application which has n number of due to recent time, the banking sector it is using a large number of hoops concepts and DBMS, and day by day, an interesting and advanced features is introduced in all the banking mobile applications. In earlier stages, we were just able to see the balance. Then they introduced the concept of sending money, and now all the banking processes like creating an RD or a FD account or even applying for a home loan, everything is possible, which is for which object-oriented programming acts as a backbone. Assume you're having an account, so they'll be creating a class for you. Based on your details, a home loan can be created. For that project, you no need to create a object or a method related to your details. Once your based on your account details, a program is created. Using that program, we can extend or you can use interface concepts and we can retrieve for your bank loan or for your RD account or FD account. So this is an example related to banking. Similarly, aircraft system engine. Now automation is implemented everywhere in aircraft system. So while connecting a simple USB cable, you can get all the desired details where a engine failure occurs. You might have seen even in bikes and four wheelers. Nowadays, in my service center, if you're having any problem, what they will do is just they will insert your two-wheeler or four-wheeler engine to a computer, and their application shows what are all the defects in your vehicle. So for everything, object-oriented programming acts as a backbone. The very important concepts related to object-oriented programming which you have studied is OOPS concepts, class and object encapsulation, abstraction, message passing, inheritance, and polymorphism. These are all the important OOPS concepts. First, let us start with the first OOPS concept, an object. An object is a real world entity. It can either be any human being or a pen, it can be anything, but it must have a certain behavior. And the three important characteristics of an object are state, behavior, and identity. The state represents the value of the object, behavior represents the functionality of an object, and identity refers to the data of the object. So, just a normal entity cannot be an object. It must have all these three characteristics to play a role in Java program. So if you take two example, a human being and a dog, as I mentioned earlier, it must have a certain attributes to play as an object. The dog, it's having a several attributes like barking, sleeping, eating, walking. Similarly, a human being, he'll be having related to banking sector, a name, date of birth, account number, and he'll be having a methods called as creating a account, deposit, withdrawal, etc. So these are all some of the important concepts related to objects and class. Next, second important OOPS concept is a class, which is a very important OOPS concept. A collection of object is called as an class. It is a logical entity. It acts as a blueprint of that object. All the details of the program will be stored inside a class. Some of the important terminologies of a class are fields, methods, constructor, blocks, nested class, interfaces, etc. All these consent will be present inside a class. This is a diagrammatic representation of a class. As I mentioned earlier, it acts as a blueprint. So for building a house, we'll be basically constructing a blueprint where a hall must be present, where the puja room must be present, what was the dimension of their kitchen. Similarly, in programming, a class contains attributes, variables, its particular values, main method. All the content will be present inside the class. So this is the basic syntax for declaring a class. So to declare a class, we have to use the keyword class, class space, class name. Class name is user defined. You can give any class name, but a good programmer will be keeping a class name related to that project. And the first name must be capital. If you are using more than one name for your project as a class, you can use underscore or you have to join and write. You must not keep any space while declaring a class name. Similarly, for object creation, all the methods, variable, data types which was declared inside a class will be called using the object. So, for to creating an object, the syntax is class name space object name equal to new class name. Inside the main method, you have to create an object. For example, we are having a class called as parking slot. Inside the parking slot, we have to create two different kind of car. So I have created class name space swift equal to new class name, parking slot class name space indica equal to new class name. So the syntax for class creation is class space class name. Syntax for object creation is class name space object name equal to new class name. Compulsory it has to be declared within the main method. This is an example for class declaration, object declaration, and what are all the contents inside a class. We'll be having a variables methods, which we'll be seeing in upcoming PPTs. So this is a basic program, Java program to understand class and object. What I have done is I have created a class. So this is a simple Java program to display the value 5. So what I have written is class space class name. We can use access specifier. This I will explain in upcoming PPTs. This is based on other user need. So inside the class, we are declaring a variable. For that, we have to mention the data type. So to get the values in the Java program, compulsory we have to use the main method. The main method contains the terms as access specifier, static keyword, void, main. Within that, string args. In this, public defines the access specifier so that it can be used by anyone. Static means static method can be called without an object creation. For example, this is a method. Main is the method here. We are calling this without any object. Yeah, we are not creating any object for this main because this main method is a static method. So once a method is declared as static, it can be directly called below. That is the meaning for static method. No need for object creation. For normal method, we have to compulsory create object. Using an object only, we can call the normal method. But static method, it can be directly called without object creation. So for the syntax for object creation, class name space object name equal to new class name. Now I want to display the value 5. So the output command in Java is system.out.println. Within that, I am calling that object using the object name myobj.x. So the procedure for saving the program and compiling and running the program is only in Java program. Compulsory we have to save the public class name as file name. Only then the file will be executed because the Java compiler can easily locate the class. So for Java program, compulsory the file name must be the class name. So the file name for this program must be myclass.java. Then the compile command is java c space class name, and the run command is java space class name. Automatically, the compiler will directly go to the main method. Your program can have n number of lines. Once you compile the program, the compiler will directly go to the main method and it will search for any object and output command. So here there is only one object and one output command. So directly the compiler will go to this section, myobj.x. It will search where is the value for x. So x has 5. So we'll get the output as 5. This is the basic explanation of a Java program. So if you want to declare and get output. It can be a variable or a float or it can be a character. Compulsory you have to define in this structure. Class space, class name, inside that your values. After mentioning all your values, main method, inside main method and object creation using the output command. You can call a data type, variable, method, anything using the object. This is a simple Java program. And these are all the terminologies which are used in the Java program. This is a Java program for addition. What I have done is created a class called as Vinoth add and I declared two variable a equal to 5 and b equal to 10 and this is called as method. Add is called as a method. Method means it will be performing any action. Here is going to do addition. So I am keeping the method name as add. Though class name, method name, everything is user defined, we have to keep the name so that it must be relevant to the program. Since it is addition program, I am keeping it as add. Similarly, this method is going to perform addition, so I'm keeping the method name as add. So even after you are joining any job, and if you are assigned a project, you have to keep all these things in your mind while creating a class or method for any projects which is assigned to you. You have to keep the class name and method name relevant to your projects, so that the person who is reviewing will be giving more marks. So what I have done is create a class, declare the variable, create a method. Inside the method, I'm adding the two value and printing it inside the method, but I'm not calling anywhere. So to get the output, compulsory you have to write the main method. Main method means public static void main string args. Inside main method, I have to create a object. The syntax for object is class name space object name equal to new class name. Then using the output command, if you want, you can display the integer values. I want to display what all the values I'm going to add. So I'm using system.out.println dot object name dot a. So the value stored inside A will be printed. Similarly, value stored inside B will be printed. Then I want to do addition operation. So I'm calling the add method. As soon as I compile this program, as I mentioned before, compiler will directly go to the main method and check for the output command. What are all the output command present here? System.out.println of A. So A value will be printed. System.out.println of B. B value will be printed. And there is a method. So compiler will search for this method. So here is the method. Inside this method, what are all the actions are happening? There is no output command in first line, second line, but in third line there is an output command called as C. Again, compiler will search for the C. Where is the C? So C is present here. Then it will search for the A and B value. It will add the both value and you will get the answer as 15. This is the basic working of a Java program. Once you compile the program, the compiler will go to the main method and see what all the elements present inside the main method. Voice is audible, pa, student, right? Sir, मेरा अकेला voice is audible, sir. Student, pa, anyone voice is audible, pa?
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay, okay, okay. The next important OOPS concept is encapsulation. Encapsulation, the basic English meaning is process of wrapping up the code and data into a single unit. The common example for encapsulation is a capsule, tablet capsule. Inside the capsule medicine, we'll be having a combination of several medicines. That is a simple example for encapsulation. So encapsulation helps us to protect the data from one class to another class. If you are having any important content, you can restrict it from the other classes. Let's see an example. And we have mentioned the data types string, integer. And I have mentioned some example. What will be the output? Here, name is declared using access specifier private, department is declared using public, and mark is declared using private. In case another class is trying to access the name, since it is declared using private, we'll be getting a compile time error. But if you want to access department, you will be getting the output. So this is the simple example for encapsulation. Encapsulation will be using the access specifier to restrict the data. Access specifiers are default, public, private. And a very important and interesting OOPS concept is inheritance. As I mentioned in the previous section, one of the main advantage of object-oriented programming is code reusability. That is achieved here using inheritance. We can retrieve the details from one parent class to the child class. Code reusability is achieved in Java programming using inheritance. The common definition for inheritance is inheritance can be defined as a procedure or mechanism of acquiring all properties and behavior of one class to another class. Basically, we'll be using the term called as parent class and child class. The person who is receiving the data is called as child, who is giving the data is called as parent. In programming perspective, we'll be mentioning it as superclass and subclass. So the keyword for inheritance is extends. Using the extends keyword, we can inherit from one class to another class. You can see a simple example using the actor Surya. For better understanding, I have mentioned his name. So we all know Surya's father's name is Sivakumar. So we are having a class Sivakumar. Though he is his father, he is having nearly 5 variables: ATM pin, address, age, salary, and child class is extending the parent class. Class Surya extends Sivakumar, and he is having different variables. Only one variable. Now, what we are doing is creating a main method, creating an object for child class. Using the child class name, we are accessing the variable of parent. While trying to get that, see here, though address is protected, if you are using inheritance, we can retrieve that data. But we cannot retrieve the private access specifier related data. Even though we are using inheritance, public data can be retrieved using child class. Default data can be retrieved using child class. Even protected data can be retrieved using child class. But private data cannot be accessed using the inheritance. This you need to know. It can be used in the interview questions. They'll be asking what are all the access specifier which can be accessed using the inheritance concept. In there, default, public, protected access specifier data's variables can be fetched using the inheritance concept, but private data cannot be accessed. Normally, what we will do for a class which is having the data, we have to create object for that class. But using inheritance, the advantage is using the child class object name, we can retrieve the data of parent. This is called as code reusability. We no need to declare ATM pin again here, address again here. We can retrieve using the child class object itself. This is the main advantage of inheritance. The next important hooks concept is polymorphism. The common English meaning for polymorphism is acting in a two different way. In Hooke's concept, there are two types of polymorphism: method overloading and method overriding. Let us see what is method overloading and overriding. The same class is using the same method with different attribute. It is called as method overloading. Here, the method salary is used two times, but with different attribute. So, if a same method is used in same class in many times with the same attribute, different attribute, it is called as method overloading. And method overriding is same method name, same attribute in different classes. The previous was in same class, same method name, different attribute. Here, method overriding is same method name, but in two different class. Same method name, same attribute. This is called as polymorphism. The next concept is abstraction. Abstraction means hiding the important details and showing only the unrelevant data to the user. So if you want to do abstraction, you have to use the abstract method. Abstract method means normally a method will show what are all the functionalities or what are all the actions happening inside that method. But in abstract method, all those data will be shown only in the class which is extending it or interface which is inheriting it. In the place where it is declared, it will be mentioned as abstract void method name. All its declarations, all its properties will not be mentioned here. Compulsory, the class which is having the abstract method will also be an abstract class. So the difference between a normal method and abstract method is normal method will have all its content below itself. But an abstract method, it will be as an empty and all its value will be shown only in the subclass where it is inherited or interfaced. That is called as abstraction. These are all the important OOS concepts: inheritance, polymorphism, abstractions, object, class. Next, we can move on to the basics of a Java environment. If you take a Java environment, what are all the key terms you want to know? If you install a Java software into your laptop, inside the C drive programming files, you can find the Java folder. In that, you can find all these terms. If you see this example, you will get an idea. So if you once you install the Java software, you can find the Java development kit. Java development kit is the big term. Inside that, we'll be having the Java runtime environment. Inside the Java runtime environment, we'll be having the Java virtual machine. So the three terms you want to know related to Java is Java development kit, Java runtime environment, and Java virtual machine. All these helps in the proper functioning of Java programming. All the predefined libraries, class, method, it will be stored inside the Java runtime environment. Using the abstract method or predefined packages, we can just recall those predefined libraries methods to our program. Just to go through what are all the uses of JRE, Java Runtime Environment. It is a set of software tools which is used for developing the Java applications. It provides us the runtime environment to execute the Java program. We'll be writing the Java program. After that, we need some supporting files. All those supporting files will be present inside the JRE. Like our college library, a set of predefined classes method will be stored in the Java library. From there, we can import our required data. Next is JDK. This is the bigger term. Inside the JDK only everything will be present. JDK is called as Java Development Kit. It is an environment which is used to develop the Java applications and applets. And some of the editions of Java Oracle are Standard Edition, Enterprise Edition, and Micro Edition. These are all some of the terms related to JDK. JVM, an important term, which helps the runtime environment. After completing the compiler section, we'll be running the program. That section will be happening inside the JVM. And for better understanding, we have mentioned the keywords of a Java program. So after writing a Java program, what we have to do to compile a Java program, you have to use the keyword as Java C space file name.java. Compile means checking whether the program has any errors. To run and get our desired output, we have to use the term as Java space file name. Once using Java space file name, you will get the desired output. So class is a keyword used to declare the main class in a Java. Public is called as an access specifier. There are different access specifier as I mentioned before. Based on our need, we can restrict using the access specifier. Static is a keyword which helps to run that method without an object creation. Normally, if you want to run a method, you have to create an object for the class and call that method using that object name. But once you declare a method as static, directly you can execute that method inside the main method. That is the meaning for static methods. Then void. We are having different return type. Return type means data type. Integer, float, double, boolean. If you don't know what is your output, what will be your return value, then you can declare that as void. Computer will automatically understand and it will interpret the data. That is called as void. Then main represents the starting point of a program. As I mentioned, once you return and execute the Java program, the compiler will directly go to that main method. So since it is the starting point of a program, you can have more than 1 lakh line of code also. After completing the program, if you run the Java program, the compiler will directly go to the main line because that is the starting point of a program in compiler point of view. Then string args is used as a command line argument to get the output. And we all know system.out.println is the print statement. What is our desired output? What words we want to before the printing a statement, we can give inside the system.out.println. So this is defining a class in a Java. To define a basic class, we want to use the keyword class space class name. Inside that, we can mention any data type method and we can execute our program. This is a template for class creation. Here they have mentioned a class to multiply with height and depth. So they created a class box. Inside the class box, they are having variables like width, height, depth. To get the output, they are creating a main method, object creating and assigning values to the width, height, and depth and executing the program. Next important term you want to know related to OOPS is Java constructor. Constructor is a special function used to initialize a class data member which is related to object of a class. And in interview point of view, the term you want to know is constructor and class name compulsory must be same in Java programming. In Java programming, class name and constructor name must be same. Method name can be different. And constructor doesn't have a return value. And third is constructor is invoked automatically when object is created. You don't need to call like method. Once an object is created for a class, automatically the constructor will be invoked. There are three categories of constructor: default constructor, parameterized constructor, and copy constructor. Let's see one by one. First one is default constructor. A constructor without parameter is called as default constructor. See here, they are creating a class employee. Inside an employee, we are having three variables. And this is a constructor. This is default constructor since it is not having any parameters. Constructor is also used to define the properties of an class. Inside a constructor, we are having all these values. See here, in class, we had variables like ID, name, age, long, salary. And inside the constructor, all the values will be stored. This is the use of constructor. So constructor is having variables and one method. Then to get the output, what we have to do? We have to create a main method. Inside main method, object creation. For getting this method, in case if you want to get these data, we no need to create an object. Just an object creation itself will invoke the constructor. But we want to run the method. So we are creating object for that class and calling that method. We are getting the output using the constructor. This is an default constructor. Second one is parameterized constructor. It will be having parameters inside the declaration section. So we are creating a class, variables. This is a constructor. Since it is having parameters, it is called as parameterized constructor. This is the basic difference between default constructor and parameterized constructor. Once you execute using the object creation, a parameterized constructor will display you the output. And the third one is copy constructor. Sometimes we may wish to prepare a duplicate of an existing object of a class. In such situation, we have to use the special constructor known as copy constructor. So there are three different categories of constructor: default constructor, parameterized constructor, and copy constructor. See here what they have done. They created a class. We need the same copy of that constructor. So there we have used the term called as data. Compulsory the name of the constructor must be the class name. So this is an example for copy constructor. Next important term in OOPS is method. Like name, like a class, method is also a very important term. The difference between constructor and method is constructor will not have a return type. Class name and constructor name will be same, and it can be invoked without object creation. Whereas for method, compulsory the name of the method and class name must be different. It must have a return type and it must be called using a object. These are all the three difference between constructor and method. Similarly, we are going to display the volume of the box. Example for method is we are creating a class, we are declaring the variables. This is the method. Volume is called as a method since it is going to perform an operation. See the basic properties of a method. Class name and method name is different. It is having a return type and it will be called using the object. This is an example for a method. See here. After creating an object inside the main method, the volume method name is called using the method name. Next is this keyword. This keyword helps us to relate the data present inside the parameterized method or parameterized constructor. Once we declare the method or constructor, inside that there will be values. To define, to avoid confusion, we can use this keyword. This keyword will relate certain keyword with the proper meaning. W means width, H means height, double means D. This is the use of this keyword. And this is also a very important method overloading and method overriding, which we saw in OOPS concept. First, we are creating a class, a method. This is method overloading. Same class, same method name, different attribute. This is called as method overloading. Same class, same method name, but different attribute. This is called as method overloading. Whereas in method overriding, we are having a class A and method name is show with no attributes. And second class name is B, it extends A. Here also we are having the same method name with same attribute. So different class, same method name, same attribute is called as method overriding. The term which used in encapsulation is access modifier or access specifier. The different access specifiers are private, default, protected, public. All these four access specifiers helps us to restrict the important data. If it is private, we are not able to use it in different class. It is private. I showed it in inheritance example also. So once if you try to open the private data, we'll get a compile time error. Default, it can be accessed anywhere. Protected, it can be accessed even it is in inheritance. Public, it can be accessed anywhere. These are all the important access specifier. Next important or the basic term which you want to know is Java comment. Once you are developing a project, it will be viewed it will be viewed by different person in different level, starting from a intern, a programmer, team lead, even CEO. Everyone cannot understand the programming language. So if you want to give explanation for a particular line, particular method, you can use the comment section. So if you want to give a single line comment, you can use double slash so that a new user or a new programmer, a new person can easily understand what is happening in this program. Java comment helps us to understand it. And it will not be considered as a programming line. Once you use double slash, it will not be considered as a program line. This is called as single line comment. If you want to give multi-line comment, it will be used in many hackathon related projects. Compulsory you have to give the multi-line comment. But there you can use the slash asterisk. This is called as multi-line comment. And important basic terms related to Java is data type. What are all the data types in Java? It is of two different categories. primitive data type and a non-primitive data type. Under primitive, we are having Boolean, numeric, character, integer, and in a non-primitive, we are having string and array. All these will be used for variable declaration. Very important term called as a variable. A variable is a container which holds the value that can be changed during the execution of program. If you want to store anything or any accessories or groceries, you'll be having a bowl. Similarly, in computer, to store any data, we need a variable name that is called as age. Here, age is the variable name. The value stored inside age is 20 and its data type is integer. Only then the computer or compiler can understand what value is stored inside the age. And it doesn't knows, computer doesn't know the proper meaning. For example, you can declare as char, age, Chennai also. The computer will just understand what it will just relate the data type and value stored. It will not go for the proper meaning. This is an example for variable. And there are two different kinds of variable, local variable and instant variable. Let's go through that. And some of the important operators which you can use in the Java programming are arithmetic operator, increment, decrement, bitwise, relational. All these are some of the important operators which you can use in the Java program. Similarly, control statement. If you are doing a multi-level project, compulsory you'll be using all these control statement if else nested if switch jump break continue. So based on your project, what are all the conditions you are assigned to you, you must think and use the control statement. Important control statements are if else nested if, switch case, jump, and breakthrough. And you can see the examples of inheritance program. The common definition for inheritance is inheritance can be defined as the procedure or mechanism of acquiring all properties and behavior of one class to another class. It is related using the is a mechanism. It will be relating using the is a mechanism. The main advantages of inheritance are method overriding and code reusability. The different types of inheritance are single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multiple inheritance. There are some of the terms used in inheritance. So these are all the diagrammatic representation of different types of inheritance. Single inheritance means one class will be inheriting only one parent class. In multi-level, class B will be inheriting class A, class C will be inheriting class B. Hierarchical, all the subclasses will be inheriting class A. And very important, the two types of inheritance which is not directly possible is multiple and hybrid. In inheritance, single, multi-level, hierarchical is directly possible in Java programming, but multiple and hybrid is possible only through interface due to some restrictions you can see. So single inheritance means one parent class and one child class. That is called as single inheritance. Multi-level inheritance, the top will be inherited by bottom. Similarly, the top will be inherited by bottom. This is called as multi-level inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance, all the subclasses will be inheriting only one parent class. See here. Main parent is animal, dog is extending animal, cat is also extending animal. Whereas in multi-level, animal was inherited by dog, dog was inherited by cat. But here, all the subclasses will be inheriting only one the top subclass. This is called as hierarchical inheritance. Hybrid and multiple is not directly possible through in Java. It is possible only through interface. Let's see a basic explanation of interface. Due to the restrictions like not possible of multiple inheritance, hybrid inheritance, a concept called as interface was introduced. The properties of interface are all the method will be abstract method, and it can also exchange like inheritance. See here, if a class is retrieving data from another class, it is called as extends. If a class is getting from interface, it is called as implements. If two interface exchanges, it is called as extends. So if similar term exchanges, it is called as extends. If new term exchanges, it is called as implements. This is an example for interface. As I mentioned before, all the method inside the interface are abstract method. Since interface automatically has a abstract class property, no need to mention as abstract interface name. Whereas in abstract class, compulsory you have to mention as abstract class name. But here we can directly mention as interface name. No need to mention abstract because already it is having that attribute. Abstract method means uh, its properties or declaration will not be present here, but its explanation will be present in the class where it is extended or implemented. See here, interface name. You can see another example also. So drawable is a interface. It is having an abstract method called draw. Normally, method must show what are all the things happening inside it, but it is not showing because it is abstract method. Where the data will be present, it will be present inside the class which is implementing or extending. See here, rectangle and circle is implementing drawable interface. So, draw method answer will be present here. See here, it is having that answer. This is a explanation for interface. All the interfaces are abstract method and it can be implemented or extended. This is an example between difference between abstract class and interface. Abstract class can have abstract and non-abstract method. Interface can have only abstract method. Since the Java edition 8 have the default and static method also. Second difference is abstract class doesn't support multiple inheritance, whereas interface supports multiple inheritance. It will be having the final, non-final, static, non-static values. Interface can have only static and final values. These are all some of the important difference between abstract class and interface. Next is the final keyword. In the Java program, once you want to restrict the terms only once, then you can use the final keyword before the variable, method, class. Normally, we will be declaring a class, method, variable. If you want to restrict that only one time, then you can use that word before the, you can use the final keyword before that variable, method, or class. See here, it is an example for final variable. Once we declared speed as final, it cannot be used in the inherited class. If we used in the inherited class, we'll be getting the compile time error. See here, we are getting a compile time error. This is the use of final keyword. Final can be used before a variable, class, or method. This is called as an object cloning. Related to exception handling, you can use object cloning for achieving the code reusability. Once we create an object, if you use the clone method, it will get all the desired properties of that object to the new class. It will be used in the exception handling. This is a term related to exception handling. There are two different kind of problem occurs in Java programming. One is error, another one is exception. Error means compulsory we will not get the output. But in case of exception, if you use these parameters or paradigms, we will get the answer. There are two types of problems in Java programming. Error means compulsory we will not get the output, whereas exception means using some methodologies we can rectify the errors. Some of the important exceptions are divide by zero exception, null pointer exception, arithmetic exception, array index out of bound exception. So if an exception occurs in a program, you can use these in the syntax inside the program and we can get the output. This is an hierarchy of exception. Hierarchy means this is the package or folder where exception will be present inside the Java software. Once you install the Java software inside the say drive programming files, Java JDK, inside this folder only this will be present. An important entry point of view, important 5 keywords you need to know related to exception handling is try, catch, finally, throws. Try block used to once you are having a doubt in a section of code, that section of code or line of code you can give inside the try block. And inside the catch block, if you know what kind of exception you can type there or just you can type as exception. Finally, we'll always execute though it has exception or not. Throw means if you want to inform there is only one type of exception in one line. We are having one line exception, you can give it as throw. If you are having multiple line of exception, you can give it as an throws. Throw mean only a single line of exception. If it is having multiple line, it can give us plural throws. Let's go through the example. The program is having array index out of bound exception. We are restricting it using the try and catch flag and getting the output. So these are all the things with related to OOPS concepts. So what we saw was OOPS concepts, interface, exception handling, inheritance. And some of the major product-based companies, they are using these kind of hackathon-based projects during the placement interviews. So important object-oriented programming-based hackathon project ideas, which will be helpful during a placements are a smart campus management system, AI-powered resume analyzer. For this, you have to use this OOPS concepts, and you want to develop this module. This is a very important meantime because after reopening, we'll be having a series of placement interviews. So in the meantime, if you are practicing all these kinds of object-oriented based hackathon, it will be very helpful for your placement interviews. So try to develop these kind of object-oriented based hackathon, smart campus management system using OOPS concept and modules you need to create as student management, attendance tracking, event registration, complaint management. And in placement point of view, the HR will be asking you to demonstrate enterprise application development and system design. And another is AI-powered resume analyzer. For your information, all more than 90% of the companies are using only AI for shortlisting the resume. So mentioning international certification name, what are all the NPTEL courses, programming languages, all these key term must be present inside your resume so that while AI track your resume, it will be helpful for shortlisting. Another third and fourth important object-oriented programming-based hackathon are hospital appointment and queue management. You can create that using a class design encapsulation and a digital wallet expense tracker. These four are important object-oriented programming related hackathon projects. Similarly, we can go through some of the basics of DBMS also, which will be very helpful for your placement. Like SQL, like object-oriented programming, DBMS also plays a vital role in placement interviews related to database management system. Let us recall some of the basics. SQL is a structured query language which was introduced by E.F. Cod. Some of the softwares are MySQL, Oracle, MS Access, and very important SQL sub languages are DDL language, DML language, TCL language, and DCL language. You can see some of the queries related to these things. The first and foremost SQL command is DDL command, data definition language. It helps us to create and modify the schema of a database. What are all the queries present inside is create command, drop command, alter, truncate, and rename. Important DDL commands are create, alter, drop, truncate, rename. Create command helps us to create a database, table, trigger, view, etc. Importantly, we'll be creating a database and a table. So this is the syntax for table creation. How will you create a table? Create table space, table name. Inside parentheses, you have to give three values. Number one is your desired column name, space its data type, space within bracket its column. So while creating a table, you have to give us create table space, table name. Inside the table name, parentheses, you have to give your desired column. Here, for a student, you are giving it as roll number, first name, last name, agent, mark. Drop command helps us to remove a data from a table, database. Once you have created a database, if you want to remove any data, you can use the drop command. And it helps to permanently delete the data. And the syntax is drop table, table name. Alter command helps us to alter the values length of the value stored inside the database. And its syntax is alter table, table name. You can use add column name. You can increase or decreasing the column size. Or you can drop the particular column. So alter helps us to add, drop, modify. And the next command is truncate command. So the difference between drop and truncate is drop will permanently delete the database, whereas truncate will delete only the content present inside the table. For example, if you are having a table and five column and values present inside the five column, only the data inside the five column will be deleted. The table and the column name remains the same, whereas the data inside the column will be get deleted. This is the difference between the truncate and drop command. The syntax for truncate is truncate table, table name. You can also rename the table from old name to new name. Those were the first subsections of SQL, DDL commands. Similarly, DML commands deals with the manipulation of data present in the database. Some of the DML commands are insert, update, delete. Insert helps us to insert the values for which we have created the data. Once you have created a table, we need to insert the values. It can be inserted using the insert command. It can be used in two different methods. The first method to specify only the value without the column name. Insert into table name values. Yeah, then all the column name must be present. Or the second, assume you are having six column. Out of the six column, if you want to insert only in three column, you can mention the three column name also. Only there values will be inserted. For remaining, it will be inserted as null. And you can also use select to insert the values also. If you want to assume there are 10 column, in the 10 column we want to insert particularly uh, whose marks are greater than 100. That is also possible using the insert command. Next is the update command. This is a very important command which is used in the banking sector. Update command helps us to change the values from old to new. For that, we have to use the where condition and primary key. The update keyword is set. You want to remember the keyword as set. Update table name, set column name equal to new value, where you have to give the primary key so that it will be updated correctly. For example, we want to change this Shubham customer name India to, for example, is age 23 to 30. What you can give is update Shubham, where age equal to 23. Related to which is the primary key here. One is the primary key. So what you want to give? Update table name, update customer, set age equal to 30, where customer ID equal to 1. So to change the section, use the comparison as primary key so that it will be changed easily. This is the use of update command. Delete command helps us to delete rows or column from a table. Drop helps us to permanently delete the table, whereas delete command helps us to delete only a particular row or column. For example, if we are having 5 row, if you want to delete any particular one row who belong to Chennai or who is getting mark less than 20, then we can use the delete command. So what they are doing, they are deleting the row where employee name is Ritvik. So the command is delete from employee table name where name equal to Ritvik. The fourth row only will be get deleted. Similarly, they are using multiple statements. Where condition also you can use to delete the values. And the third category of SQL command is DQL. And the very important command is select. Using the select command only, all the desired data in banking sector ATM is displayed. Select can be used in multiple ways based on the user expectation and perspective. If you want to display all the data, you have to use the asterisk command, select star from table name. We want to display, for example, first three column name, you can simply give as select customer ID, comma, customer name, comma, name from table name. It will display the three condition. Or if you want to display the age who is between 20 and 23, that is also possible. Or whose name starting with the T, that is also possible. So select command can be used in multiple perspective based on the user's need. This is an example for select statement. And the last section related to SQL is data control language. Compulsory, since database and multiple values are involved, we need some controlling power. So DCL helps us to access that. So DCL, what it will do is, it is having the grant and the revoke. Assume a new person is joining a company. We cannot give delete, drop access to that person since he is just an intern. At that time, what we can give as grant, create, select, view on a certain project name to intern one. If you are granting only that access privileges, we can access one. I can do only that. He can able to only create, view, select. He can't able to update or delete. Once he is moving on to the team leader level, we can increase his privileges. Then we can grant him, grant, update, view, delete everything. after 3 or 4 years, once he is relieving from the company, compulsory want to revoke all his permission, or he can do some these things. So once he is relieving from the company, what you want to do is revoke what are all the SQL power we gave to him from from the table, from that project, from that certain person name. He'll be having a certain username. We can revoke all that from that person. And some of the supporting DCL commands are commit, rollback, save point. You can use gaming sector as an example. Commit helps us to permanently save the data into a database. We are doing create, update, select, many things. It is just be temporarily stored. Once you are giving commit semicolon, it will be permanently stored in the database. If you want to roll back, you have created a table, you have inserted 5 rows. You want to go to the place where how it looks when insert as a second row, only the 2 rows. Then it is possible using the rollback command. To use the rollback command, you might have previously used the save point, like a game. If a game is having a 10 stages, after completing 2 stages, if you are going out or moving out, we can save it using a save point. After returning, you can continue from the second stage. Like that, in database, if you are doing certain operation, you are going to turn off the system or you're going to your daily work time is completed, you can save it in those save point. The next day, you can roll back or you can do certain operations which is desired to you. So all these are called as the DCL commands. So these are all the important SQL DBMS commands: data definition language, data control language, and data manipulation language. So we are coming to the end of the session. We have covered about the what are all the important OOPS concepts, DBMS concepts, which will be very helpful for the final year students for your placement interviews. To add on to that, what was the priority order you want to give for placement preparation is I have listed from 1 to 10. If you are giving this priority order for your placement, compulsory you can succeed in your placement interviews. All are related to the CSE subjects and aptitude and communication skill. The first thing, very important thing is data structure algorithm, second object-oriented programming, DBMS, basics of object operating system, computer network, SQL. And seventh is very important. Compulsory, you have to do hands-on projects and hackathon. Since for executing the programming languages, we have used only the IMNeo, and for any interview purposes, we have used the Code Tandra. But compulsory have and hands-on with the Java softwares or NetBeans softwares and execute the seventh one. Projects and hackathon will be very helpful for your placement preparation. And eighth is aptitude and reasoning. Though we are related to CS department, in most of the normal level tier 1, tier 2 companies, they are having the first round as aptitude and reasoning. So have a basics of aptitude and reasoning also. And if you are interested in web development or cloud COE, try to have a certification related to web development and cloud. And the 10th is very important, develop your communication skills. All this will be very important, very important and helpful for your placement preparation. So these all will be the success formula for your placement. A combination of all these things compulsory will give you a high placement probability. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Pa. Okay.
Students, anyone have any doubts you can ask, ma? Like you have already attended some interviews, so you must be knowing the importance of DSA the DBMS. Sir has started from the scratch. So if you have any queries, you can feel free to ask, sir. If you have any queries which has been asked in the interviews and you may not be able to answer, you can very well discuss in this forum and you can ask those for sir to clarify. Be interactive, ma.
So we'll be available in campus also, madam. Compulsory if they're having any doubts or queries during their upcoming placement, they can interact with me related to OOPS and DBMS also.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much for the wonderful session on the object-oriented concepts and the DBMS concepts, sir. I hope this would have been really helpful for the students who are just starting at the scratch for the preparation of placement. Thank you very much for the valuable presentation and informative session, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam.